Okay, welcome everybody. Welcome. It's the beginning of the new academic year here for me in Haifa. For many of you not in Haifa, in Tomsk, we are welcoming our special guest today, and this event opens the academic year. I'm so happy to see many of you at the event. Some of you I haven't had a chance to know, to learn about in person because you're just starting the journey at Royal English. Some of you are longtime students, and I'm happy and I'm rejoicing to see you all here today. We have a special guest. We have Nathalia Bustamante, and I hope I'm not distorting your name in any way. Perfect. Okay, so I just wanted to read out your bio. Let's say what we are going to do today. So you worked before the Harvard Graduate School of Education for Fundação Estudar, which is a Brazilian nonprofit that promotes youth development. You originally, your degree is in journalism, and your new degree, we can congratulate Nathalia from this year's class, is from Harvard. It's from the Harvard Graduate School of Education. Okay. You are now back to Sao Paulo and you're working at?
I'm working at another foundation. It's called Fundação Lemon. I have a slightly different position, but with the same challenge. We work with leadership development programs, but instead of implementing those programs as I used to, now we are supporting as in a more of a grant-making position. And it implies that I have more scale to work. So I'm impacting thousands of leaders that we're forming every year to address the country's biggest challenges. I'm really excited to be back, and I'm really happy to be here with you guys with those updates after an intense year in Cambridge.
Okay, thanks, Nathalia. I hope the updates and the information today will be sufficient to charge you for the new academic year and to warm your hearts if the weather is not warm enough. I hope it will be enjoyable and useful. And I hope after this, your courses will be very successful. Just to underline the importance of the topic, every group class in the new academic year will start with a class on the growth mindset. So I cannot emphasize how important this topic is in education. Okay, well, Nathalia, can you tell us about your plan? Are we planning to start with a lecture, then do Q&A?
Yes, I have a small lecture, and I don't really like to call it a lecture. It's more like an introduction to growth mindset, but please feel free to raise your hand and ask questions in between the slides and the presentation. And also we have a couple of interactive moments where I would like to hear from you to check whether we're on the same page. And then after this brief presentation, we can open for your questions and we can discuss further how do you think that concept will impact both your academic year and your overall development.
Okay. All right, so this is the plan for today. I imagine for the interactive parts, everybody will need their laptops or phones, right, to vote? Yes, is that correct?
The phone should be right, but if not, the laptops that they're logging in, it works too.
Okay, and please feel free to unmute. I think we are in this very small group. If there is no background noise in your room, please feel free to unmute and react. And I think this will make for a productive conversation. All right. So I think without further ado, we will start here. Okay, the floor is yours, Nathalia. Please.
Thank you. Well, thanks again for the invitation. This is a topic I really love to talk about. I have been working with those programs for 6 years now, and I think this is such cornerstone of working with learning and development that it's one of the topics why can't I? Sorry. I forgot to put on part of the screen. This is one of the topics that I address in all of my sections because it's just crucial for every other topic that we might want to develop or discuss. So we're going to talk about growth mindset today. Before we begin, I often like to start or apply our workshops to real challenges or things that are actually going to happen in your life, because that makes it more concrete. So my first question or provocation to you guys is for you to think about what is your next big challenge, professionally or personally. What is that thing that you know that you want to accomplish in the near future? It might be an exam that you're taking. It might be promotion that you're looking for in your new job. It might be moving out of cities. And I would like you to actually think about it and decide on a challenge that you're going to be focusing on for this workshop session. If you have a notebook and a pen around, jot it down and we'll discuss it. And then when you look at this challenge, I want you to think, what does your mind tell you about this challenge? What comes to mind? What fears, what anxieties come to mind? You can usually, when you're facing a big challenge that you don't know how to address, or you don't know how it will turn out, it's very common for us to be thinking that we won't make it because we don't have the skills to do it, or we are afraid of what people will think if I fail, or we are afraid that we will not make it because we don't have the resources for it, because we have never done it before. So very openly, I would like you to reflect upon this next challenge and really think to yourself, what are the things that come to mind? What are the fears and anxieties that come to mind? No judgments here. Everyone has those kinds of thoughts. And we, in this workshop, we will understand where are those thoughts coming from and how we can actually affect how we address the challenge. So this is a quote that why do we bring the challenge? Because we want to give concreteness. And now we're coming from the concrete challenge to a broader perspective about growth mindset. And this is a quote from Carol Dweck, who is the person who coined the term growth mindset. She's a researcher and a professor now at Stanford University. Before Stanford, she worked at Harvard and Columbia as well. And her main contribution to the field of psychology is on growth mindset. And she's been researching development motivation for quite some time. And this is a quote from her that explains why those thoughts that come to mind when we think about our challenges are important. Because the view that you adopt for yourself profoundly affects the way you lead your life, the way you address your challenges. It can determine whether you become the person you want to be and whether you accomplish the things you value. I wanted to notice here that she's not saying that it is the competences that you have, the talents that you have, the connections that you have, the resources that you have that will affect. Of course, those things do affect, but she is emphasizing here that the very perception that you have about yourself and about your challenge has this power of affecting how you approach them. And this view you adopt for yourself is itself the growth or the fixed mindset. to further introduce the concept, I would like to bring her to talk about it. She has a very educative, instructional TED Talk, and now we'll share with you a small piece of it. We're not going to see the whole video, but I think it's useful. Are you seeing the YouTube screen?
Yes.
Yes. Okay. So we're gonna, I added subtitles in English to further help with the presentation, because she is, she speaks very pausedly, but nevertheless.
And I thought that was fantastic, because if you get a failing rate, the grade not ago, where students had to pass a certain number of courses to graduate, and if they didn't pass a course, they got the grade not yet. And I thought that was fantastic, because if you get a failing grade, you think, I'm nothing, I'm nowhere. But if you get the grade not yet, you understand that you're on a learning curve. It gives you a path into the future. Not yet also gave me insight into a critical event early in my career, a real turning point. I wanted to see how children coped with challenge and difficulty. So I gave 10-year-olds problems that were slightly too hard for them. Some of them reacted in a shockingly positive way. They said things like, I love a challenge, or, you know, I was hoping this would be informative. They understood that their abilities could be developed. They had what I call a growth mindset. But other students felt it was tragic, catastrophic. From their more fixed mindset perspective, their intelligence had been up for judgment, and they failed. Instead of luxuriating in the power of yet, they were gripped in the tyranny of now. So what do they do next? I'll tell you what they do next. In one study, they told us they would probably cheat the next time instead of studying more if they failed a test. In another study, after a failure, they looked for someone who did worse than they did so they could feel really good about themselves. And in study after study, they have run from difficulty. Scientists measured the electrical activity from the brain as students confronted an error. On the left, you see the fixed mindset students. There's hardly any activity. They run from the error. They don't engage with it. But on the right, you have the students with the growth mindset, the idea that abilities can be developed. They engage deeply. Their brain is on fire with yet. They engage deeply. They process the error. They learn from it, and they correct it.
So this is Carol. And I do hope that you will look for the opportunity of seeing the whole TED Talk, because it's actually really interesting. Where's my... Are you able to see the PowerPoint now? Okay.
Yes.
Any reactions to the video? Anything that's jumped to your attention?
She's really nice to listen to. I don't know, she has this nice voice, and yeah, I think it's really clear that, well, she spent some time preparing that speech, so it was very like eloquent and I don't know, yeah, touching. So yeah, I liked it.
Exactly. And I think it's interesting in another perspective, that's a side note on the presentation, but we can actually see how nervous she is presenting. Like she sometimes repeats phrases that she said already. And it's, I myself think it's very comforting for you to be like this high level. You're a professor at Stanford, you're giving a TED talk and it's okay. You're still nervous like anyone else. So I think it's really cute that she is that prepared to give the lecture. Any other reactions?
I liked it too. I did not think about connection to neurons in our brains when you challenge something. It was interesting.
Yeah, the image of the brain is really powerful because you can actually identify that the people who are addressing that as with a fixed mindset, they are stuck. They are like, I can do that. This is my limit. This is too hard for me. While the people who are adopting with a growth mindset are like, this is amazing. There's so much that I don't know here. How can I use that for my own development? And that's exactly the difference between the fixed and the growth mindset. The person with I correct myself. When we adopt the fixed mindset, we tend to think that the skills that we have are innate and unchanged. And that if we were born to cook, if we were born to play the guitar, then that's what we will do. And if we were not born to do those things, we will not develop them. And that gives us the need to prove ourselves all the time. Like, I have to prove that I am good at it. I have to prove, and if I need to be attested for my abilities, I don't want to put them into, I don't want to put myself in a difficult position of taking up something that it's likely too challenging for me, because that might tell me that I'm not as good as I thought I was. And that is different from when we adopt a growth mindset. It's this perception that skills are something that we cultivate, something that if we put our effort on, we can develop them. And we approach things with the need to learn, the need to further understand the topic or further practice this ability that we wish to develop. And I corrected myself because sometimes we think, and seeing the two brains makes us think that people have either have a fixed mindset or have growth mindset, and that is not the case. Every one of us have both mindsets all the time, and we can change how we decide to approach every situation. I like to give a personal example. I have never been really good at sports. I was this chubby child that didn't really like to play volleyball at school or football at school. And I used to adopt that with a very fixed mindset that I was bad at it, that I didn't have the energy, I didn't have the skills. And for most of my childhood and adolescence, I was this very unathletic person. But then at some point in near my 20s, I discovered a friend invited me to practice yoga. And I was like, I don't know, that I'm not that good at this physical stuff. But then I did go with her and I loved it. And I was so bad at it. I couldn't do anything. I couldn't even like fall down and touch I was touching my knees by the time when I folded down. But then the professor in the yoga class, she was very welcoming and very supportive. And she was like, this is very normal. This is your first class. So instead of obsessing about how bad I was in that class and being stuck in the tyranny of now that Carol mentions, she inspired me to think about how much I had to grow, how much I had to develop in that part of my life if I wanted to. And then I decided to stick to it, and I did evolve quite a bit. I've been practicing yoga for the past 10 years, I guess, and that reveals my age. More than 10 years, actually. But the weirdest thing is I actually got pretty good at it. I actually got pretty flexible, pretty strong. And that's only because I allowed myself to be really bad at it at first. I accepted, I embraced the difficulty that came with the practice. So for us to move on and to show that we do adopt a fixed and a growth mindset every now and then in our lives, I want to invite you to pick your phone. And if you don't have a phone, you can use, type that in your browser and share with the group moments in which you have adopted a fixed mindset, in which you feel that you could not evolve and that you were not born for it and that you would never be good at it. I'm gonna open this Slido here and then maybe 2-3 minutes for us to think and answer.
Okay, I just shared the link in the chat for everybody to use it, and just go straight to slido.com.
I have a question. I didn't understand the question entirely. Could you explain?
Sure, absolutely. Thanks for asking. Can you think of situations in your life in which you have adopted this fixed mindset? You have thought, no, I'm not good at it. That I won't even try because I know I'll fail. Or you have thought, this is not my thing. You know, a very common one that I hear a lot. You know what? I'm not a math person. I'm really bad at math, so I won't even try doing those Excel operations. I won't even try learning how to program or how to, and that puts you in a position about yourself that you're limiting the things that you can learn and that you can develop. Another example of myself, and that's a situation that I still do adopt a fixed mindset. I haven't changed. I'm really bad at cooking. I don't do it at all for the sake of humanity. I do know, because I had access to this theory of Carol Dweck, that if I did put some effort and practice into it, I would develop this skill. But instinctively, I adopt a fixed mindset, and I'm like, nah, I'm just gonna order takeout today because I'm too bad at it.
Thanks. It's clear now.
Oh, amazing. See, this sporty thing, it really, it is a stigma that we carry sometimes, that we're not good at it. So we think that we can't. The cooking, when I had to write essays at the school, when I tried to learn how to play the piano, I thought notes were very hard. That's really hard indeed. When I try to draw in sports, never been sporting. Amazing. And it's really normal to adopt a fixed mindset when you're having a first interaction with a skill or a practice, because you are going to be bad at it. You've never done it before. I drew very poorly in kindergarten and in school. Yes, I love this answer because it brings up the point of natural talent. And sometimes we're so obsessed with this natural talent that we don't allow ourselves to develop. So we are stuck in the tyranny of the natural talent. And then we give up dreams. You wanted to become a visual artist and gave up. Oh, see, that's the risk of the fixed mindset. Awesome. Thank you so much for your answers. Now we're going to play a different game, which is going to be the opposite. When have I adopted a growth mindset? I'll ask just 1 minute before you start answering, because I have to change the question here. Okay, we have a new one. So if you enter in the same Slido, you'll be able to see the new question.
Yeah, you actually need to go there. Refreshing the page will not help. So you just need to click the link again. Mm-hmm.
Amazing. Play the violin. At first I was really bad, but then I accepted my mistakes. Exactly. I think mistakes is another really important word when we're talking about growth mindset, because it's all about making mistakes, allowing yourself to make those mistakes, and then reflecting upon them and improving. Learning how to drive, 2 people learning how to drive, driving in the right lane, right hand lane, yeah. Yeah, I think driving might be a good one, because you have to, if you need to drive a car, if you're the city that you live in requires you to have a car, then you have no option of having a fixed mindset. You just have to do it. Math Olympics, competitions, hard tasks. And then your brain was on fire, like the one Carol showed. And practice helped a lot. Dancing. That's amazing. And now teach others how to dance. Oh, that's so great. That's the ultimate growth mindset. Not only you allowed yourself to learn, you are also allowing others to learn. Let's see if we have some more answers. We still have people typing, so we'll give another minute for us to finish. Amazing. Back in school, I was the best informatics student, and that made me feel. That's so interesting. Then you move to another environment and you realize that you were not as good as you thought. And then if you adopt a fixed mindset, you will not embrace the challenge, because that will challenge your own perception of I'm good at it. But then that would keep you stuck in the level that you were before. I immediately felt that I am the worst in my university group. Focus really hard on getting better. That's amazing. That's such a good example. That's great. Thanks for sharing. And it is a turning point in your study, in your development, in that particular skill, but also overall, because you realize that, man, I did it. I evolved. English and dancing, all those standardized exam, proficiency exams, those are really something that triggers a fixed mindset. But then you realize that the more I practice, the better results I had. That's unbelievably fast. Amazing. Great, great. Thank you so much for sharing that. Those are such good examples. And I can see that you're getting a grasp of what it is. So the good news is, and you have realized that by now by your answers, is that we can adopt more frequently a growth mindset. It's up to us to decide how we approach the challenges that we have. And following up on Carol Dweck's theory, she identified that the three main elements that define how you improve your growth mindset are motivation, self-awareness, and self-improvement. Motivation is related to the example that I gave about cooking. The fact is, I don't really like cooking, so I don't have the motivation to put the effort to it. I don't have the energy, if I might say, to actually put the effort and the resilience to make mistakes and to be open to risks. So this is why I keep adopting the fixed mindset regarding to cooking, because I actually don't want to develop that new skill. But if you do have the motivation, that will give you the resilience to fail and to think that it's okay to fail, because I'm improving. I'm still in this learning curve. And that gives you the openness to embrace new challenges and try things that are ever more different, ever more difficult, because you're in a different phase of your development. The second element of improving your growth mindset is self-awareness. So it's not just practicing, but it's practicing in a mindful way. I like to use the sentence of the person who wants to become Formula One. How is that called in Russian?
Pilot, Formula One pilot?
Yeah, a Formula One pilot. I was not sure if that was a worldwide brand, Formula One pilot, but then keeps driving their own car in the streets. Those are different skills that you need to practice if you want to become a pilot. Very different skills than if you are, let's say, a taxi driver, even though they are both driving a car. So this self-awareness of exposing yourself to precisely the elements that you are not good at, precisely the things that you have more difficulty in, that is what's going to make you improve and lead you to excellence. And also being open to criticism and feedback, because sometimes you are not improving, you are stuck, and because you don't master that skill yet, you can't even see what you are getting wrong. So you need help from other people, experts, or people who know you well, because they will be able to signal you what are your blind spots, what is it that you're not seeing, and that's probably in the way of your development. So this accepting the feedback as a gift and reflecting about it on, okay, so how can I take this message that might be hard to hear at first, and understand it as an opportunity for me to be better and to improve in this specific part of the practice or in this specific challenge. And then apply that to your own practice. So how do you take what you reflect on your errors? How do you take what you hear from your feedback and criticism and take from your own mistakes, and you actually do it better and better every time? That's the ability of self-improvement. And that's what those three elements are crucial for you to adopt a growth mindset and actually see the improvement. And the brilliant thing about it is when you actually apply them, you do get better, and that gives you more motivation to keep trying. So it's a virtuous cycle that you enter in. You're getting better every time, and then that gives you motivation to keep practicing and to keep improving. To basically sum up what we have been trying to do, those are the sentences of the fixed mindset. I'm not good at it. I failed. I'm not as good as my colleagues. And that element of comparison is really dangerous, because we are all in different parts of our journey in learning. So the comparison, you're only seeing the picture, you're not seeing the movie, you're not seeing the full development. I won't even try because I know I'll fail. And if I don't succeed, I'm a failure. And then when you realize that you're saying those sentences to yourself, that's when you have to reflect and say, how can I change those sentences? How can I tell myself a different story about this challenge that I'm facing? And that will be, I'm not good at it yet because I'm still learning. I still have much to learn. I have so much to learn from these people. And that's an amazing shift when you stop comparing yourself and putting yourself down because you're worse than your peers at that specific skill. And then you start looking at them as opportunities for you to absorb that greatness and learn from them. The realization that you will only improve if you do try. And if you won't even try, you will remain in the same position that you are. And the realization, again, that it's a movie, not a picture, and that if you don't succeed now, that means you're still learning. That doesn't say anything about your competences. That doesn't say anything about your value as a person. That only says that as of now, you are in the way to development. So coming back to the challenge that we thought in the beginning of our little workshop here. What does your mindset now tell you about your next challenge? What are the things how can you change those sentences, those fears, and those anxieties that you had about your next challenge? And how can you reframe that to a more growth mindset approach? And 2 tips for this exercise is first to think about previous experiences that you had that could help you with this next challenge. So I've never done that before, but I have done something equally challenging, and that in the same way, I thought I couldn't make it, and I did. And also be really mindful about what will you learn, how will you be different as a person, or what skills will you have developed once you complete your next challenge. Those things really help you change from those sentences to this other side of the sentences. We are almost at the end of our time, so I will update another Slido with the questions if you want to send them anonymously. But if you don't want to send them anonymously, you want to just open your mic and ask what's on your mind or react to what we have just seen, feel free. This time is yours.
Okay, well, everybody, please unmute yourselves if you have questions and ask. I think it's the best time.
I have a question, but it's not related to our theme, I guess. Are you a native Brazilian? Are
Sorry?
you a native Brazilian? I'm just interested.
I'm native Brazilian, yes.
That's cool.
I was born in a state called Minas Gerais here in Brazil, but I have been living in São Paulo for the past.
That's cool. Thank you.
Right? Any topic related questions? So, oh, that one was cool, but yeah, what about growth mindset?
Do you have any other authors to read or to watch who share their thoughts and ideas about growth mindset? Gleb have already added a link to the video we watched partially. But
Oh,
I'll
I'll send a link here. So the main author is Carol Dweck, and she has a really good book called Mindset. And it's not a technical book at all. It's a really digestible book if you want to understand further what she's talking about. Another author that drank a lot from Carol Dweck's source, but was approaching it more focused on the motivation part of the growth mindset is Angela Duckworth. I can type her name here. She is a professor at the University of Pennsylvania, if I'm not mistaken, and she has an amazing book called Grit. And she's also great, and she has a couple of, I think she does have a TED Talk too. Let me see.
Yeah, Google says that she has a TED Talk.
Yes, and she talks, this is the cover of her book. And she talks about perseverance, resilience, and how that affects how we develop the skills that we want. So, oh, we have it there. Gleb is way ahead of me. So those are the main authors that I would recommend to dive deeper into this topic.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah, I would also like to add to that answer, if I may. So there is a good course on Coursera about, I think, about like either a very similar topic or even at this, depending on how you look at it. So the course is called Learning How to Learn, and the structure of this presentation and the subject itself reminds me a lot about what Barbara Oakley tells in that course. So she tells a lot about this. I'm not sure if she calls it like fixed and growth mindset, but she also talks about, you know, how our brain kind of works when we try to learn new stuff. So it has like two different modes where we try to like learn a very new novel thing to us, or we just want to practice and develop in something that we already kind of have some grasp of, and how important it is to switch between each other if you want to, you know, get into something new. So we don't need to apply that, well, I guess, mindset if we're just trying to learn something new, because it will not help. It's like, yeah. So she explains it way better than I just tried. So feel free to check this. I really recommend it.
That's brilliant. Thank you for sharing. This is a great course indeed, and it talks a lot about those two elements. Angela Duckworth talks about the first element, motivation, and then this course, you really do dive deeper into the self-awareness and self-improvement, because it's all about how you reflect upon your own learning to improve your own processes of learning. So that's a brilliant tip. And I totally agree that it's really complementary to the topic of the workshop. And we have the link here already. Brilliant.
So if there is any other question, I believe it's time to ask it. Yes, Natasha, please.
Yes, I have a question: how to get over stress and overworking when you don't have enough time for preparing something. For example, if you have an exam tomorrow, and you know that you can prepare, but it's not enough time for you to do that. So how to get over this stress and don't overwork and don't feel on the next day like a zombie.
That's a great question, and that's really concrete. Like, how do we apply that to our daily lives? I think the best approach would be to not to be too hard on yourself, and understand that, accept that you did the best that you could at that moment and with the resources that you had. So if I only had 24 hours to prepare for this test, I'm aware that my results might not be as good as I would like. That will give me a learning opportunity that for my learning process, that for the next time I need to start preparing beforehand, or I need to give myself more time to prepare. But accept those results not as a stamp that you receive, that you didn't do enough or you are not enough, but that you are in this stage, and like embrace the stage of learning and development that you are. We have been raised in a educational context of really high stakes exams, of really all or nothing, and then if you fail this task, then that will have implications. And fortunately, this is changing in many of the environments. I'm sure Gleb can share with you about many of the things that we have been studying in education, in educational practice, about how those high stakes are actually undermining the power of the learners, because it gives them this pressure and this anxiety of performance. But while the first thing is we are improving, and in the future, I'm hopeful that we will have less of those high stakes situations. But while we are still facing some of those high stakes, I think the best approach is to be really caring about yourself and understanding that this is a journey and that doesn't say anything about your value or about your competence. Any other questions?
Where do you find an inspiration to get a good motivation for the next challenge?
That's another full workshop on motivation. I think Angela Duckworth is the best one to address this question. She basically, in a nutshell, she says that you can either identify a passion and then associate that development with your passion. So I really want to be a physician in the future. And to be a really good physician in my field, I need to learn English, because all of the recent research is published in English. That associates this really specific point of development and really hard point of development of learning English with a passion, a vision that you have in the future and the person that you want to be in the future. So that gives you intrinsic motivation. And another second tip that she gives is to find things that you enjoy about the process. So if you can't really associate it with a vision or with a long-term passion, then identify elements of that practice or of that development that you enjoy, because that will make it easier to be resilient about the things that you don't. But I do recommend her book on that, because it's a whole other topic. I mean, totally connected. So that's a great question, but it's a handful.
It's a lot to learn. Thank you for the questions. I believe we are at about 5 o'clock Moscow time, which means we should be finishing soon. I have a couple of requests before we drop off, because this is the beginning of the new academic year, and I wanted to have a group picture at the end of the workshop. So put on your best faces, please. We are going to take a group picture for the start of the 22-23 academic year. So the first thing we are going to do is just smile at your camera, please. So do it right now. Okay, maximum friendliness. Okay, a bit more. This is good. Okay, the second thing I want us to do is, we are starting a new academic year. I wanted to start a new tradition. So we are doing it online. So we cannot, unfortunately, give a high five physically to each other. So we'll try to do it to the camera, okay? So please, on the count of 3, 1, 2, 3, we're going to give a high five to the camera. Like, oh, I missed it, sorry. I'm not drunk, I'm just using 2 different cameras. So this one, okay? So we'll do a high five on the count of 3, all right? 1, 2, 3, high five. Okay, let's start the new academic year. Thank you, everybody. It was a pleasure to see all of you today. Thanks for your questions. If you have any others, I'm sure Nathalia will be happy to answer them. I can pass them on to her. And this is a small link. This is the feedback that is important to me and to Nathalia. We want to know how to make this workshop better next time. Okay? Thank you, and hope to see you in our courses starting next week.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank
It's
you.
lovely meeting you all.
Thank
Have a
you.
good
Thank you,
evening.
Nathalia. See you,
Thank-
everybody.
See you.
Goodbye.